Everybody knows that in the NFL, quarterback is far and away the most important position. And so with the 2023 season upon us, I thought it'd be a great idea to go and rank all 32 expected starting quarterbacks 1 through 32. But before we get started, I'd like to ask that you subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. It really helps us out. We make shorts daily, a weekly podcast, and videos like the one you're watching right now. As well, you can follow us on Twitch for watch-alongs for every Monday, Thursday, and Sunday primetime game. The Twitch is right here, and we'd love to see you there. But without further ado, let's get back to the video. For the purposes of this video, I've broken down the starting quarterbacks into 9 tiers, starting with Tier 9, who's the backup. This is for players whose teams don't have significant investment in them, meaning they don't have significant draft capital used on them, they don't have significant assets traded for them, and they don't have significant contracts from their team, nor have they ever showed a level of elite play for that team. And so, in this tier, we only have 2 players, those being Sam Howell at 32 and Baker Mayfield at 31. Now, Sam Howell seems to have had a great preseason, but until he does it in the regular season, I can't put him any higher than 32. The only reason Baker Mayfield is 31 is because he has taken a team to the playoffs before, albeit a team that was built around defense and a running game. Moving on to Tier 8, we have the prospect tier. This tier is far and away the toughest to rate, as most of these players haven't played even one full season in the NFL. And on this list, at 30, we have Desmond Ridder, 29, Anthony Richardson, 28, CJ Stroud, 27, Jordan Love, 26, Bryce Young, 25, Mac Jones, and 24, Kenny Pickett. The one that might surprise a lot of you being on this list is Mac Jones at 25, seeing as he has played 2 full seasons in the NFL. But there's still a lot of question marks around him. His first full season was very good with Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator. His second season was very bad with Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator, potentially the least qualified offensive coordinator in the history of the NFL. And so I want to see how he performs with Bill O'Brien this year. I think pretty early on, we'll know if Mac Jones is a bust or if he's legit. Moving on to Tier 7, we have the meh tier. This is the tier for quarterbacks who are probably starters in the NFL, but their teams are likely looking to replace them if the right opportunity comes along. And on this list, we have at 23, Ryan Tannehill, 22, Justin Fields, 21, Kyler Murray, and 20, Jimmy Garoppolo. I understand a lot of people might take issue with Justin Fields at 22, and I get the argument. He was 9th in MVP voting last year. He might have led your team to a fantasy championship, and he's an elite rusher of the football. But that doesn't take away from the fact that he threw for less than 150 yards per game last year. He's a quarterback whose team had the worst record in the NFL last year, and he's a below average passer. A lot of people like to compare him to Lamar Jackson, but the truth is Lamar Jackson is an incredibly efficient passer who just runs the football really well, versus Justin Fields is a great runner because he needs to be, and that's why he's 22 on this list. Tier 6 is the prove it tier, and it's for guys who defied expectations last year and can be broken down into 2 types. The first type being guys who we thought of as busts or didn't expect to produce in the NFL who had really good seasons last year. And the second tier is for guys who had been consistently good for years, but due to injury or poor play, had a poor season last year and created a lot of questions around whether that's the new normal or that was just a blip on the radar. And so on this list at 19, we have Daniel Jones, 18, Deshaun Watson, 17, Russell Wilson, 16, Geno Smith, 15, Matthew Stafford, and 14, Brock Purdy. The guy I expect a lot of people to question on this list is Brock Purdy all the way up at 14, especially when I have a separate prospect tier for guys who had played less than a season. But the fact of the matter is Brock Purdy was way better than any of those guys who played a partial season last year, and he didn't lose a game that he both started and finished. Finally, he had to be above Jimmy Garoppolo. Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo played for the same team last year, and Brock Purdy was clearly the better quarterback. And so with Jimmy Garoppolo being in Tier 7, I had to put Brock Purdy in Tier 6. Tier 5 is the good starter tier. These quarterbacks are good starters, but they're not competing for MVPs. They could be the quarterbacks who win the Super Bowl for your team, but they're not going to be the reason your team wins the Super Bowl. And so in this tier, we have at 13, Dak Prescott, at 12, Jared Goff, at 11, Derek Carr, and at 10, Kirk Cousins. A lot of these quarterbacks have questions around them. Derek Carr just got released by the Las Vegas Raiders. Jared Goff recently got traded away. But the fact is, they were good quarterbacks for their old team. They are good quarterbacks, or I expect them to be good quarterbacks for their new team. And These guys consistently perform year in, year out. They're your good starters. Now that we're in our top 9, we're going to be going through the quarterbacks one by one. So starting with number 9 in tier 4, the potentially elite tier, we have Aaron Rodgers. Those who've been paying attention to the offseason and watching Hard Knocks probably think this is way too low for Aaron Rodgers. But don't forget, last year was the worst season of his career. He was an average quarterback, and he's turning 40 years old this season. Most quarterbacks don't play well into their 40s. Yes, we just saw it with Tom Brady, but that's the exception, not the rule. Just look at Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan. All these guys got into their late 30s, early 40s, and fell apart. The reason I think Aaron Rodgers could rebound, though, is because the 2 previous seasons, he led his team to 13 wins. He won MVPs. He's been reunited with the offensive coordinator he was with at that time, and he looks reinvigorated on the Jets. So there is the potential that he bounces back and is an elite quarterback, and that's why he's number 9 on this list. At number 8 in the potentially elite tier, we have Tua Tagovailoa. This guy almost looked like a bust through his first couple of seasons, but the Miami Dolphins surrounded him with talent, and last year he looked like he could be an elite quarterback when he was healthy. But that's the big issue, when he's healthy. Last year, he took 2 of the scariest hits I've seen, and there was a period of time where we were talking about should Tua ever play football again. I think with the talent around him, if he's healthy and how he was able to perform last year, he is an elite level quarterback, and he's going to continue to grow into that elite level status. But we need to see if he's able to stay on the field, stay healthy, and I hope he is. We never hope for any injuries for someone, but that's going to be something we need to wait and see, and that's why he's potentially elite. At number 7, in the last player in our potentially elite tier, we have Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence looked like the quarterback we all expected him to be last year, especially in the second half. But we still have that first season where he didn't look very good. We all acknowledge that was under Urban Meyer. That probably shouldn't count. And if he continues like he did last season to begin this season, he's definitely moving up to a higher tier, if not a higher position on this power ranking. But we need to see a little bit more to prove he belongs there and to prove that Urban Meyer really is the worst head coach in the history of the NFL. Moving on to tier 3, we have the top tier starters. And at number 6, we have Lamar Jackson. A lot of people might question me having Lamar Jackson this high, especially when I had Justin Fields so low. But Lamar Jackson is incredibly efficient as a passer. And yes, he doesn't throw over 4,000 yards a season, but he's not asked to, and he still wins a lot of games. Lamar Jackson could be a 4,000-yard passer if that's what the team wanted, but they don't need him to be, and so he's not. Now, I don't expect Lamar Jackson to age gracefully given how his game is, but this isn't a question of how these quarterbacks are going to be in 5 years. This is a question of how these quarterbacks are today, and today he definitely deserves to be a top-tier starter. At number 5, we have Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has been elite since the moment he stepped onto an NFL field. He throws for 4,000 or 5,000 yards every season. He's an elite arm talent. The reason he's not higher is because his team really hasn't performed come playoff time. Yes, they have to go against the Chiefs in the regular season, so they're often really just fighting for a wild card. And yes, that's often because of his offensive coordinator and head coach. Just look at their loss to the Jaguars last year in the playoffs. But Justin Herbert is elite, and if he's able to perform in the playoffs, I think we'll start talking about him in an even higher tier and with even more respect. At number 4, and the final player on our top tier starters list, we have Jalen Hurts. I know, this might seem a little high for Jalen Hurts, especially given it's only one season, and I've knocked a lot of guys for having only one very good season. But last year, Jalen Hurts was just so good. He finished second in MVP voting. He led his team to 14-3, and 2 of those losses he didn't even play in. They went to the Super Bowl. Yes, they lost in the Super Bowl. Yes, they were in the NFC, which is a much weaker conference. And yes, in the playoffs, they went against a 49ers team that didn't even have a quarterback. But that's nothing against Jalen Hurts, who really took a massive step forward as a passer last year while still maintaining a very good rushing attack. He looked like Josh Allen last year, and Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And because of that, I think we gotta put Jalen Hurts at number 4. And if he plays again like he did last year, he's in a higher tier for sure. Moving on to tier 2, we have the elite quarterback tier. And at number 3, we have Joe Burrow. And I'm actually going to talk about him alongside our number 2, Josh Allen. These two have been talked about constantly all offseason long about who is better. And I feel I'm in the minority putting Josh Allen ahead of Joe Burrow. But the reason I put him ahead is because Josh Allen just doesn't work with the same level of talent as Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has the best receiving corps in the NFL with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. Joe Burrow also has a great running game with Joe Mixon, and the Bengals have put a lot of money into improving the offensive line in front of Joe Burrow. Compare that to Josh Allen, who has Stephon Diggs and really no other weapons and not a great offensive line outside of that. Yet they both put up similar stats. The other argument for Joe Burrow is that Joe Burrow wins and Joe Burrow performs in the playoffs. I can't take away from the fact that Joe Burrow wins because he does. But Josh Allen actually performs in the playoffs too. Look at both their playoff stats right here and tell me who you think is better. I think it's very clear that Josh Allen has actually been the better playoff performer. He's just let down by the fact that his defense tends to not perform in the playoffs, and they've been heartbroken in some games where the other team has just played better. Versus the Bengals, Joe Burrow has been good, very good, but his defense is a big reason why he wins. And because of that, I'm not going to knock Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is slightly ahead, but the fact that we've talked about these two in the same sentence all off season long is a testament to how close both these players are and how good both these players are. And that's why they're the two quarterbacks in the elite tier. And at number 1, in the best of the best tier, it's Patrick Mahomes. We all knew it had to be Patrick Mahomes. He is far and away better than any other quarterback in the league. And any list that doesn't have him at number 1, in my opinion, is completely invalidated. He's not competing against the modern day players for who's the best. He's competing against the all-time greats for where he belongs in the annals of history. And he's trying to chase down Tom Brady to become the GOAT. I know that might sound blasphemous, but hear me out. Through 5 seasons, Tom Brady had 3 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl wins, 0 MVPs. Compare that to Patrick Mahomes, who has 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 Super Bowls, and 2 MVPs. It's pretty close. And my favorite Patrick Mahomes stat is he has never been knocked out earlier than overtime of the AFC Championship game. And one of those overtimes, he didn't even get to touch the ball. And who did win that? It was Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, and they went on to win the Super Bowl. Imagine that coin flip goes different, and Patrick Mahomes gets it, goes on to win the Super Bowl. Now, Mahomes has 3 Super Bowls, 4 appearances in 5 years, and Tom Brady only has 6 total Super Bowls. And this is a completely different conversation, which is why I say Patrick Mahomes has a chance, though he probably needs Andy Reid to stick around for the entirety of his career to be able to chase down Brady. That's it for this power ranking. Lists like these are completely subjective, so I'm sure many of you have completely different lists. I'd love to see them down in the comments below, and I'd love to see who you think I have too high and who you think I have too low. And any comments you leave down there, I will make sure to reply to. I want to interact with everyone, and I hope to see you again watching some of our videos very soon, and hope to see you tune in for our live streams on Twitch throughout the regular season. But with that, thanks for watching, and see you later.